Welcome to the Rising 6th Grade Information Night, and welcome to the Individuals and Societies presentation. My name is Julie Carrill, and I am the Department Chair for Individuals and Societies. If that term is unfamiliar, here at Glasgow, we are an IB middle years school, which means that instead of calling this department Social Studies or History, it's called Individuals and Societies. So I'm so excited to tell you a little bit about the course that I've been teaching for the last couple of years here at Glasgow, History 6. And here's a little bit about the sequence of Individuals and Societies courses here at Glasgow. All 6th graders start out taking History 6, all 7th graders take History 7, and all 8th graders take Civics 8, which is a government and economics course. And here at Glasgow, we divide our units of study into 10 main units. We start off with our geography unit, where we look at the regions of the United States. Then we start off with, then we go to our second unit, all about Native Americans before European exploration. Then we look at European exploration. And then we go to Unit 4, which is all about the West African empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Then we go to Unit 5, where we look at the confluence of how Native American, Europeans, and West Africans came to build colonial America. In the second half of the year, we look at the American Revolution, looking at both the causes of the revolution and the war itself. Then we move on to Unit 7, New Nation, which is all about learning about the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, and the first 5 presidents. Then we move on to Unit 8, Westward Expansion, where we look at the impact of westward expansion on Native American communities. And then we also go to Unit 9, which we call our Activists and Inventors unit. This is all about women's suffrage, abolition, and the invention of new technologies that make westward expansion a little bit easier. We end the year taking most of the 4th quarter to learn about the causes of the Civil War and the war itself. In 7th grade, students learn the second half of American history, starting with the end of the Civil War and going up to the modern day. Here at Glasgow, and broadly in all social studies courses in Fairfax County, we've increasingly adopted what we call the design principles for cultural responsiveness. These are values that we try to bring to every single unit of study and every single lesson. And I just want to go through some of those with you. The first one is relationships. Here at Glasgow, we really believe that everything stems from relationships. So what do we mean by that? We mean that teachers encourage students to believe that they are capable and worthy learners and human beings. We don't really believe that any learning can occur unless that has been firmly established early on. Second, multiple perspectives. So this is a history course, so that means that we are trying to expose students to diverse historical experiences and perspectives, and making sure that those perspectives are represented with respect and nuance and not stereotyped or limited or dehumanized in any way. The third is relevance. I think that this is such a key. If you've ever wondered or heard the question, I know I have, why do I need to learn history? Relevance really hits to the heart of that. What this means is that teachers drive learning by asking questions that connect students that connect to students' identities so that they are relevant to what the kids are interested in and to current events happening in the world. Our fourth design principle is rigor. Students will process learning in ways that affirm who they are and how they use language. And so the way that we do this here at Glasgow is we try to offer as much student choice in how students both learn and present the material. So that means typically a couple of different options on an assessment or a couple of different options for how they want to learn the material. And lastly, we value critical lens. And this one I think is maybe the hardest to understand. This is how we encourage students to examine materials like primary and secondary sources, events, and institutions critically by paying attention to which groups of people hold power and which groups of people don't, who wrote the sources, what was their position in society, and what kind of biases do they have, really getting them started on the critical thinking part of a history curriculum. Another thing that we do to really encourage critical thinking, and this is also a county-wide initiative, is by using Harvard University's Project Zero thinking routines. We've been using these for a couple of years now in Fairfax County, and what they really do is try to create a culture of thinking in our classroom. We really try to encourage students to understand that thinking isn't something that always just happens. It can be taught, okay? And we do that through these thinking routines. And one example I've put up on the board is I used to think, now I think. In this particular one, we encourage students to tell us all the things that they used to think, whether they're correct or incorrect, misconceptions, misunderstandings about any given topic. And then they're encouraged to reflect on that and to think, well, what do I know now? What have I learned from this unit of study or from this lesson? And there are myriad others that we use as well. Now, I know that many of you are probably wondering what the next school year is going to look like, and we're all wondering that as well. But one of the unexpected benefits of this current situation where we're learning at home is that all sixth graders next year and this year will have access to their own personal laptop. And that has really been a game changer for us in creating personalized blended learning opportunities for students. So before, when I first started at Glasgow, we rarely had access to individual computers for every student, and that limited us to a lot of paper and pencil types of activities. Now at Glasgow, whether we're in person for learning or learning at home, we can really personalize our lessons for our students so that they can work at their own pace. So I'll step you through what that might look like. So the first part is blended instruction. Typically what we do now is we pre-record our mini lessons so students can watch them at their own pace. They can watch the videos several times. They're like 10 to 15 minutes. They can back up, they can rewind, that kind of thing. And then when they're ready to move on, when they feel like they've gotten the main information for that day, then we move them on to self-paced individual work. And so that brings us to this section over here. And what that might look like is it might look like students get started on individual readings. Maybe they can choose a topic that's interesting to them or a leveled option for them. They might read a poem. They might analyze a political cartoon or a map. They might write a journal entry, that kind of thing. But whatever they are doing for that day, they're doing it at their own pace. And when they're finished, they would move on to this third section, which is called mastery-based grading, or more, I think is more accurate, feedback. This is where a student would bring me their work and we would do a one-on-one conference together where I'd check it. I might correct any misconceptions or give them ideas for how they can improve their work, and they might go back, or I might approve them to go on to the next day's lesson, and then they could go on to their next blended video. This really gives us a lot of flexibility to work with students' own internal pace and offer them many options in their learning. And we do plan to incorporate some of these principles even in the in-person learning environment. And here's what it might look like. This is one of our playlists. So students have multiple tasks that they do in individual time. They check their work, we check their work, and then they move on. And they can often also have extensions if they finish early. If they're moving a little bit slower, not every activity is required. And it really just gives us some flexibility to work with students and where they're at. That concludes our presentation for today. My name is Julie Carrill. I again am the Department Chair for Individuals and Societies here at Glasgow, and I'm also a History 6 teacher. My email is jbcarrill@fcps.edu. If you have any further questions about History 6 or the Individuals and Societies Department here at Glasgow. Thank you so much and have a nice night.